Aloha, everyone, and welcome back. This is Merissa Indigo, and my beautiful friend and lovely, incredibly talented, I'm going to call her a star worker today, just as one. There's so many beautiful ways to call you, Julie. uh,
Hi,
but
everyone.
this is welcome, everyone. This is our February Gridworkers chat. So we have coast to coast Gridworkers chat. So I'm in California, and Julie
In
is.
Massachusetts on the East Coast, the USA.
So we have a beautiful dynamic going on here between coasts of our wonderful country. So we're so excited to see you today. As you may have noticed, we did not have a January meetup. And one of the reasons for that is that really, until February 1st, the energy was still very much last year, even in January. Um, the Gregorian calendar system is what we're using right now, mainstream, I should say, collectively to determine, these different times and shifts and everything. And so if you may have noticed, it was pretty palpable that the energy was still kind of the same in January, a lot of that old stuff. So um, I'm going to start today, I guess. And Julie, please jump in if you have anything. Um, but first, I want to say welcome to the Redwoods, everybody. I wanted to have this beautiful background for us today. And if you notice, Julie's got the Aurora Borealis, and it is so fun and perfect because you'll notice a lot of the times the patterns of the themes that we are embodying, that we are transcribing for you, are a beautiful harmony of earth and sky, bringing heaven to earth by bridging. So you can see that even in our backgrounds here, which is so much fun. So I just want to talk about the energy shifts from a grid work perspective. For me, as of late, since the last quarter of 2020, um, and most of 2020, I suppose this would be accurate to say, is that the grid working experience has been in the body for me. And with the earth, with all the different elements present with where I live, the flora and fauna and the animal kingdom. So that's kind of my grid working has just naturally shifted in that direction. And as of late, I should say. Um, and what's interesting about that is that it's linked for me to this, I call it the stabilization factor. So, with everything shifting since last year, what I find the most important tool to really be in my fullest alignment is stabilization. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to talk about first the absolutely just so palpable, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this, and Julie, you too. But my goodness, February 1st, it was like boom, it was like someone cut the energies apart of January and February, and it really felt like with February 1st, that was the new year. That was the new energy, and so many wonderful other way showers, are referring to this as the new light. And I could feel that lightness, that access, that there's so much fullness and potential, but it was light and beautiful and just harmonic. So, February 1st to the 3rd, we have Imbolc, which is, such a beautiful celebration. I think they call those like the cross quarter holidays, right,
Mhm.
Julie?
Yes.
So it's in between winter and spring, right in the middle. And that was such a palpable shift of just feeling that lightness and being able to kind of feel more like we could surrender and root in. And what I started to get right away was the master builder codes. How can we be the divine architect of our experience? How can we be the alchemist? And this applies to so many aspects of our life. And so that's where that stabilization piece comes in, is that once we can stabilize ourselves and harmonize and then unify, we can become the builder, we can become the architects, because we have to have that foundation. So if you were to think of constructing a beautiful temple, or a home, you've got to have the foundation first. So just to share these little nuggets of experiential wisdom that I have for everyone out there with these energies, be the eye of the storm by stabilizing. And so for me, that's part of the master builder. That's how we get there. It's like you have to breathe and center and come into yourself. And so for me, how I've been doing that really my whole life, but what's become just vital for my sanity would be nature. And so I wanted to share with you guys that a great access point, if you can, I mean, I know this depends on the weather too, so we all have to be creative with where we live and the social situations right now as well. But that's why I thought, well, hey, even if you're in a place right now where there maybe nature isn't as accessible to you, you've got the redwoods here, and you could use activational footage and just watch things or look at photos too, if you like, to connect that way to the grid. But what has come to me in the stabilization process is I go out into nature here and go for a lovely walk, and that really allows me to just drop all of the how do you say, like any inorganic architecture, thought forms, any of the old that needs to just be witnessed, so that then I can come into divine neutrality again. And what I've been receiving, these beautiful codes from the trees, all about their root system, as a template for us to start to understand and embody within ourselves and with one another, the interconnectivity of what is Gaia's, crystalline, the new earth neural network. What is that? That beautiful web. It's the original World Wide Web that the tree keepers, I'm calling them the tree keepers, but they're the code keepers of that intelligence. So I just wanted to bring that forth from the nature elemental perspective, and just sharing this visualization of, with February and Imbolc, February 1st through 3rd, being that cross quarter, nature star seed celebration of halfway in between winter and spring. A lot of you out there may be feeling that excitement, that bloom factor. And you can feel the potential of, so much energy coming with spring of the seeds. There's so much monumental energy. It's almost sexual. It's so strong in this creative life force of birth and rebirth, like that energy that you feel when you think of the seed and it's sprouting and it's pushing up through the soil to come into the sun and bloom. And you can really feel that potential, but we're not quite there yet, maybe in our creations and our goals. So for me, I've been dealing a lot with reviewing, where do I have impatience? Where is my ego, my human ego, trying to control an outcome? And then forgetting in that whole process, as we forget and pretend and remember again, oh, this is divine time. I can't control the time. It's about the journey, right? Not the destination. So I just want to share that with you guys, because I know you can feel so much and it's very exciting. And so the way to nourish your goals and your projects, your visions, maybe, these insights that are coming and you don't have all the pieces yet, is this beautiful visual of a seed and that it's germinating now. That's the blessing of the Imbolc energy, is that it's germinating. So how can we nourish that creation as a master builder, as the divine architect, through our own stabilization? So that's really, that's a lot, and it's richly packed, and that's really what I wanted to share of what I'm getting from the energies of February and going forward here, and that I'm doing my best to clear anything that is distorted and keep coming back into center, to share that with you all and with Gaia, and to be in that together. So thank you. And now, Julie, I can't wait to hear what you have to say, love.
Do you mind if I ask you to clarify a couple points?
Of course.
That you said.
Of course.
I think it's helpful just in this sharing in general, if you could clarify or flesh out a little bit more what you mean by stabilization and also builder, like master builder codes, because those are two things I think we could decode a little bit for people.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for helping me ground it. Thank you.
That's good. Those two, so we first talk about there, as there are different roles that grid workers do, sometimes I call it a conductor, we're conducting light or anchoring light, bringing light through. And then, so that's one active role, but then stabilization is a whole nother skill set, if you will. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, thank you so much.
What that means to you.
Yes, thank you. That's beautiful. So the stabilization piece as a grid worker and as a being here, for me, is really about actually being an authentic conduit. Because if we're clear within, so for me, it's a clearing ourselves and coming back into our divine neutrality, and then we can be that the Teflon tube of the higher energies. So it's almost like what you do for yourself, you do for others and the collective and the planet. So by clarifying your intention, making sure you're aligning your highest aspects, unifying your highest aspects and finding that place of peace. So meditation, surrender what is maybe on your mind that's that's pulling energy from you, that's bumming you out, or if you're impatient or maybe you have pain in the body, listen to the messages, just kind of witnessing what is presenting right now in my experience and how can I surrender that, transcend it, and then stabilize in the power, this mighty power of the I am presence. So that's the trueness of our beingness. So that's what I mean when I say the stabilization, because then we're really on purpose, and we're
Like
receiving.
a whole tapestry, my word cloud of what stabilization means to me too. Like, so it's cool to hear it from different, that's this whole point of our cross coding here, right? Is to hear from
Absolutely.
different perspectives. So
So it's like stabilizing into your truth. What is your truth?
yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
How it shows up for me often, like that role of stabilization is so we have these, when the light comes in, you were talking about the new light, like it pops off almost like all the old, like there's so much light. What light does is like shine into the darkness, right? And like
Right.
find all those crevices and nooks and crannies and all the little like dust bunnies under your bed and like in your mind, this is like all the old patterns that are not of your highest alignment, right? And that, so it happens to you as an individual, but it also happens to the human, when you talk about the human heart grid, like that's like how your community or your neighborhood or your species are feeling, right? So when the new light codes come in, they kind of like pop off. Like people have these like almost, like those, that little game where like the mole, like things pop up.
Oh,
And it, like,
whack-a-mole. That's how I described my like transition process this last
yeah,
week.
well,
Like,
the
let's have
grid is like,
every program. Hello. Like,
but the grid workers feel this. So like what's unstable is when like we have all these like, this person's angry and that person's this and this person's anxious. And that, like this year has been like everybody's stuff is up and out to play. And you called it programs, and programs are that like the old paradigms or the old, the things that are like in part of our infrastructure, right? But when
yes.
we're like kind of dismantling some of these old things, or when they're dismantling, the stabilization comes and like there's a ripple through the fields,
That's right.
through the grids, and like we feel it in this like massive, like almost like what an earthquake would do. Like it like creates these like waves and ripples through the grids, and stabilizer's job is to like just like hold space for it and like allow, like, but also like watch, allow, observe, like you said, all the old tenets of meditation and being witness consciousness, and like allow them, like hold enough space for everything. So things like, instead of like this frenetic, it's like
Yes. Mhm.
but it takes patience, dedication, time, like you said, going into nature, whatever your practice is that allows you to get centered in yourself, even
Yes.
when you're feeling these ripples of like,
Mhm. And that's part of what the tree people were sharing, because we are clearing, for the collectives too. All of it is one, right? So the light purges us and we witness and we see and we wow and dissolve and then coming back into the stabilization. And then that's how we're impacting the grid through our own body, just like the interconnectivity of the root system just glowing, with I think it's mycelium. I want to say, because I know it's a fungus, right? That they're connecting with like glowing in the earth. Yeah.
and then so builder, then the second thing that I was
Oh,
going to
yes.
ask, if you don't mind, is to say that when you said like, oh, I'm feeling all these builder codes, could you explain that to people a little more, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes. So it's an enormous responsibility, but it doesn't have weight to it. It's not heavy. It's not work when we think of the old paradigm of the toil and it's not like that. Being the grand archetype of or architect, and it is a builder archetype of your experience is truly the gift of divine sovereignty. And that's what we're all going towards, is remembering um, everything one bit at a time. So being a master builder is you start to understand how, before we were doing this unconsciously, when we were playing in the forgetful zone, the separated or the fractalized instead of the whole being. So you start to see the connection between what you think and what you feel and what you speak and what you intend, and understanding the inextricable, just such an intricate connection between what's in here, all of you, including everything from before, which is why, the ancestral clearing is so important. I always hit on that. Ancestral clearing and all of this going back to first separation is really what it's very beneficial to do that, to truly create from right here, right now in the present moment, instead of unconsciously from the subconscious, from trauma patterning. So being a master builder is, you could think of that fun saying, set it and forget it. You have an intention. Maybe it's, your life's mission. You're starting to realize, wow, this is a really big vision. And I come from, a humble financial background, and I'm going to need vast quantities of financial abundance to accomplish this. Like, there's many layers of it. It could be as simple as, setting the light forth in the grid for your day to have a lovely day, wherever, whomever you encounter, to just be in alignment with your highest and just enjoy, all experiences, all encounters. Like, for instance, the mundane, which really isn't mundane anymore, like going to pump your gas and seeing who you see, and going to the grocery store and seeing who you see, and just being that. So it can be very simple, everyday kind of things. And then it can be super, like what we would just say, grandiose visions, of coming together with people. Like I have visions of building a beautiful temple one day, like having land and building a beautiful temple, to Gaia, and so everyone just comes and enjoys. And it's not really, it kind of supersedes, being non-denominational. It's just it's a frequency of being, of interconnectivity, so building everything, literally building everything in your life, from your health and your wealth and your relationships, your career, your service mission, like allowing that to flow in. And it's this process of first stabilizing in your truth in the new light, and unifying, and I'm getting like a big ping in here, sorry, in my ear, and unifying the aspects of yourself to then create from there, because we are the producer, the actor, the set designer, the editor, we're everything. And so in that, it can feel like, oh shit, like that's overwhelming. But it's really not. It's just aligning back into love and harmony, and what feels like so beautiful. What feels like for me, my favorite things that get me super high, super turned on, are creativity and collaboration with others. That, I don't know if there's anything more fun than that. When you vibe with somebody and you're like, wow, I have this vision and I have that, and you see where there's simpatico, and everyone has, like Julie says, the code exchange, where everyone has more to add, to build on, and it's so magical. And I think that that's the ultimate why we're here, is that connection and creation, together. And so we have to clear ourselves first, and then we, and get clear on your vision and your goals. And that's, again, that stabilization piece. And it's really important, because that's also anchoring in the golden age by us living it ourselves, and then putting it out onto the grid. And, this is funny. You can probably hear the trash truck. So we're talking about, getting rid of the old, and then there's the trash truck.
Always right in time. That was a really beautiful, like very accessible.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
That was super helpful. That's nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me to,
wrap up. Are we pivoting, ping ponging over to my sharing?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your world.
Well, you wrapped it back to January too. So it's interesting, as I was hearing you talk about that shift you experienced between January and February. It didn't quite play out that way for me, but that's cool too. That's why we talk, everything, we all have different roles to fill. We all have different pockets of the globe we're in, and like different things but after, it's like very much at the end of December, I, some of our mutual mentors and teachers, friends that we hang out with, have taught me this well. Like, okay, so like what, at the end of the year, you kind of go into that New Year's like cocoon, and then like figure out like, what do I want to work with for the next year? And for me, it's a lot of empowering and like teaching people and helping people like experience that, like the outer space and the inner space connection, right? The star connections, like you said.
Yes.
And so I spent a little time here at Inner Space of my center looking at all the planetary alignments and the star alignments, and like what was coming up for 2021. So when we got out of that, the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, So as I looked forward, it was cool. And like January it was just so potent with planetary action, like coding. It was like, well, we exchanged messages a little bit. I felt like we were all like disassembled. Like I was like stripped for parts was the word I kept using to all my friends. I felt like we were like, things were like completely disassembled. And then, you know, if you took your whole car apart and you had all the parts like spread out on the mechanic floor, and then you got to like reassemble yourself back. Just like, if you could figure out which pieces and parts needed like recalibration or retuning, or like how are you going to rebuild yourself? That's like a different way that it showed up. So,
That's
but
exactly perfectly described. Yeah. A
um,
total like disillusion.
yeah, like just like, yes, and it's stripped for parts sounds like, you know, a car on the side of the, you know, like not a good thing, you know, it's like, but it's just stripped, like, that's what I mean by like disassembled into your parts.
Yep.
And then you get to rebuild yourself anew. So the January, the star kind of code energies or the planet action, and I know I've shared this with you and this group of people that watch our grid worker chats, is that last year was a lot about the planets. And then this year I felt like there was even more of a deepening of that. Like for myself, like all the work that happened last year was almost like a training ground or like a preparation for what's going to happen this year.
Absolutely.
And this year I get to do it more with more awareness and insight and like a reflection point of last year. But so December 12th, that 12/12 gateway, um, you know, a lot of us got, you know, it's true for every 12/12. We get that like, oh, the 12 strand DNA, like we're working with our DNA. And then in the 13th strand, like the 13th strand is almost like the central channel that unites the 12. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, who knows? You know, you get these insights and you're not sure how they're going to play out, right? But then in the January coding, I got this really deep inner guide to work with the planetary bodies again. So like there was a lot with the planets last year, but so Earth is ascending, right? But all like our whole solar system is ascending. So all the other planets are also having their transformations happen too. And then when they meet up in the sky for us to see here on Earth, they have this like, there's like a deliverance of star codes, and you know, some might call it a stargate or a, you know, what do we call it, a planet gate when it's a planet? We still call it stargates. But there are these alignment moments that transmit a whole bunch of data or information or light codes. So anyway, in January, I was really caught with like one day at a time to work with the planetary bodies. So there are 8 planets, but there are also 5 dwarf planets. So I was researching and coding with, so those 13, I spent like a
Wow.
day each. Like I coded with each planet for a while. And I was like, oh, these are going to be like kind of the building blocks of the year, if that makes any sense. And like the
Okay.
13, in like maybe each one, here I have a little picture I brought.
It's so significant, the 13 too, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Oh
not gonna.
shoot, it's hidden in the aurora.
I know it's lost. I can't do it with my green screen.
That's
What?
so cool. It's reminding me of, I can't
There
remember.
we go.
Okay.
You see that? It's so
Yeah.
funny, and the it's lost to the. But so the go back. I know it's like I don't want to. We want to pick just like nuggets to share in this one. That's what the sun. So after Jupiter and Saturn were together on the grand conjunction, you know, they started to get a little further apart in the sky, and then the sun comes along and like meets up with them. So the sun met up with Pluto first, and then Saturn, and then Jupiter certain days in January. And that felt like significant.
Yeah.
You know, whenever there's a conjunction, it's like that planet or star and the sun like double code and send us like a double dose of light codes, if that makes sense.
Super powerful.
And
Yeah.
the Saturn energy, like if I won't put it up because it doesn't show well, but the rings of the end of the human energy body and like working with the multidimensionality and like maybe even, I'm not sure how it's going to play out throughout the year, but maybe even using each one of the orbital rings of the planets and the solar system as like accessing layers of our multidimensional energy body.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Yeah. I love it.
And then what else came in January? Oh, the code dates. So people that work with codes, or code keepers, code readers, code writers, code speakers, that is we talked about stabilization, but like doing code work is a whole nother branch, if you will, of grid working, right? So there was a lot of dates that were encoded, like the one, it was January, I can't remember now, like the 21st through the 29th, or
Oh,
there was
the
a 10-day
palindrome.
stretch,
The
the
palindrome.
palindrome dates. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So those days were like super, that the whole 10-day stretch was like a super important code. You were talking about the building codes, and it's like a little, like the one, so it was 1 2 1 2 1, 1 2 2 2 1. So like the middle number changed every day, right? So it was like almost bringing in like this bandwidths, different bandwidths of information. Does that make sense at all?
Oh, well, absolutely. Because how I'm like getting this is like my experience is that it was a buildup. So like January was like a collapse and a buildup for February of like, just like you say, like what's left to assess here that isn't in alignment. And let's give you some really powerful, energies to really go deep within yourself, like to the darkest depths, and then come through that and shine and just, really looking at it with the light, like I see like that image of like you've got the hood up and you're looking at the engine and you're like, okay, what's under there? Like how is that wire? Is it totally frayed? Like really. And then I felt that too when you were sharing that stuff about the palindrome on Facebook. That build up, that ramp up was huge, and it was huge. It was a lot.
It was like that the 121
Hmm.
20, or whatever. My brain isn't making
Yeah.
the codes right now, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
How it came through, it was like that was like one bandwidth, and the next day it was it was like these concentric rings, and then Saturn too, like Saturn and Saturn's rings. There's something to like in the middle of those code days, or right before it was when Saturn conjuncted the sun. So there's just a lot of like individual self grid and merging with the solar system grid work
Yes.
happen.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It makes me think of like the meditations where you connect like your heart to Gaia's heart to Solaris or to Grand Central Sun, however high you want to go. And that whole like trinitized, like Sandra Walter talks about, like another aspect of that trinitized beingness is like we're the human heart, and then going up to solar and then Gaia and like all of it. So beautiful.
Now you get like the angels are singing behind you too.
Oh my God, it's the garbage angels.
Rock
But
back
hey,
in.
they're very important. It's like it makes me think of like the vultures, the vulture energy.
Huh.
That's purification, baby. That's very important.
There's never a sound. I say this to my clients all the time because now, people that used to come see me in person even are now we're all zooming, right? But so like their dogs, they'll be home and I'm like, nope, every dog bark, every doorbell, every time your kid comes in the room, it's all part of the rebalancing or the energy work. Like it's never a disruption. It's like
No,
the
it's
code.
it's
And
the
so we're
song.
talking about like code keeping. Like for me, it's like songs come through. Like I get like a song for everything.
Yes.
A lot of people do, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like things come through, license plates, sides of trucks, like signs on trucks, signs on the side of the road. On the 2-2, we don't do a lot of this, but we did do a Grubhub thing. We got takeout,
Nice.
and like it was on 2-2, and then like the bag came to me. I'm such a geek. I take pictures of all this stuff, but like the bag
Yeah,
had
great.
2-2 written on it.
Ah.
Like you can't make this stuff up. Like the codes like come your way. So what do folks do with them? Even just like in the clock, of course. A lot of people are like, oh, I see, the 111 or the 222. Like the codes come through on like time.
Yes.
And so what is when you're talking about builder codes, like all of those things are like, how do we work with that and then interface with that? Just the noticing of them and the having them bring you joy and pleasure and just getting
And
like a
open
little
to them
that
too. Like
smile.
open. Yeah, like say, oh my gosh, I'm seeing this. Yes. And then like maybe if you can take a pause or write it down. If you can't pause in the moment, write it down, voice memo it, whatever. Like if you're in the middle of something like driving the kids or, for realistic, because the codes will come randomly all the time. So just take a note if you can't connect in the moment, and then you can connect because there's no set. It doesn't matter when you do it, right? It's quantum. But really, like in that moment, just dive into that. Open your fields, open your heart, open the Taurus, connect, and just kind of like dive into it. Like Neo in the Matrix, how he dives into the agent
Yeah.
and just and like transforms him with the light. That's such a great image for what's happening right now. Because like we can just dive in and penetrate any topic and just feel it, see what's coming through. And some of them take a while too. some of them it's so obvious, you know, like the song lyrics are really fun. You know, wake up with the song lyrics and it's like, oh, that's great, you know.
You said you were doing, you know, you go to the grocery store and that the song that's playing.
Yeah. Oh my
Like,
God. Every time. Yeah. And I love it because it's reminding me of music that I, you know, I haven't heard in a while, like the good stuff from like the 90s and like, you know, great stuff like growing up with that you kind of maybe you're just not present so you don't remember and you're like, God, that's such a good song. And, you know, so like the clock, numbers on stuff like order numbers or numbers that call us, you know, songs, people's t-shirts. And then like we don't really watch TV, so because before like commercials could be a thing too, like what are they, you know, is there an animal totem or something? But this whole week it's been bobcat energy, which is really great. Bobcats, and because they're having babies right now in the area, and like all these neighbors are communicating about, oh my gosh, you know, look, my ring on, you know, my security camera on my porch like caught this bobcat just strolling on by, like so cool and casual.
that's happening here too. And my friends,
Really? Yes.
yeah, yeah, no, the bobcats they're
Oh,
awake.
I love them so much. I love them so much. So for me, it's animal totems too, or you know, like going on your day, like the tree people all have things to share too. Like what kind of tree is it? You know, and what is their leaf? Is their leaf a palmate leaf like ours, like our hands, or is it like a diamond or like, you know, so it can get overwhelming with the codes because they're everywhere, but it's great.
And yeah, I don't know where to go from there. What else should we chat about? I
Uh,
know it's a good
oh, well, it's the new moon today. I did want to wish everyone a beautiful new moon today.
right,
Yeah. And tomorrow's Chinese New Year. It's
right.
the metal ox, which is kind of cool. That's like, there's some stabilizing, like grounding in, like getting in there. I like
Wow.
that, you know?
I
Um,
the metallics.
yeah, yeah, please.
So like, is that a good thing to talk about? Yeah, just like in general. Well, we're gonna go back to the builder codes maybe. The other thing that showed itself to me in the solar system way, and it has some to do with the metallics, but the
Mhm.
I tuned into work that I had seen maybe back when, but Johannes Kepler was a
Oh, yes.
German astronomer, and he came up with this system of the platonic solids nested within the planetary orbits.
Wow.
And his was, I wrote up an article about it, and maybe we can link it
Okay. Yeah,
underneath all this to
absolutely.
like explain it, flesh it out a little bit more. But that like the platonic solid activity of like the different phases of the light body is something that I'm coding with a lot right now.
Oh,
Um,
that's
how can I
interesting.
make it? I'm gonna make it a little
Okay.
thumb sketch. So last year
Mm.
in the spring, I don't know if you remember this, that Venus went through the Pleiades. There was an alignment last March. So I was talking about how at the beginning of this year, when I was looking at the astronomical alignments, I noticed that March is named after Mars, but
Yes.
Mars was doing the same thing. So this year it's Mars that's marching through the constellation Taurus and like moving into the Pleiadian energy.
Beautiful.
So last year, like Venus to me and to lots of people that work with Venus has the octahedron energy, the double double diamond. Oh,
Oh,
she's the
yeah.
same
Beautiful.
color as my aurora borealis.
Mhm.
And in that platonic solid nesting structure that Kepler gleaned, the between Earth and Venus is that like you can transcribe this shape into that orbit, if that makes sense.
Beautiful.
Between Earth and Mars is the dodecahedron. That's this one.
That's one of my favorites. That's one of my
So the
favorites.
dodecahedron around the Earth, and you know, I shared this with some other groups and so on some other platforms, and I got a lot of feedback of people saying like, yeah, we've been seeing the dodecahedron around the Earth, and like, what's up with that? And like, so I
Cool.
feel like for me, the code that's coming through for this 5 year. So the
Mm,
2021 is the year of the 5 too, right? And that showed itself to a lot of us as a pentagon.
mm.
And then I was watching the Mars thing, and then I was looking at, I was like, I knew that there was some Mars Pentagon connection, but I didn't have any like empirical data to back that up. I couldn't figure out like what it was, or I was like, it'll come to me. I know it'll come to me.
Yeah.
But then when I was looking at this nested platonic solids between the orbit of Earth and the orbit of Mars, Kepler transcribed, or you can draw the space fits you know, the distance between the radius of the orbits. Does that make sense? You know, like you can
Yeah.
put in a dodecahedron.
Okay.
Like when you're traveling between Earth and Mars, or you're making connections, or even you're working the light grids between here and Mars, it's like you're moving through this dodecahedron phase of your light body.
That is
Make,
so freaking cool.
but so
Well,
there's a lot, and it ties right back to the embodiment. Like when I
yeah.
work with the Pentagon, and I keep seeing the human, you know, the human form as the 5-pointed star, or as the Pentagon. You know, we have the 2 arms, 2 legs, and the head, right? So we like stand as a pentagon, and it like just speaks to me as embodiment. Like this is going to be the year of even deeper embodiment.
Oh,
And
for
the dodecahedron has 12, it's 12
sure.
faces
Mm-hmm.
of pentagons. So that ties into the 12 and the 12 strands and the whole. So
So
keep
beautiful.
happening over here. Just a little
I love that you brought in geometries, because what's come through for me the past few weeks is how we can start to actively, by working with our DNA actively, right, and communicating with it, talking to it, programming, um, doing the writing, overriding, as Sandra Walter says. But also, what's come through with that process is connecting to the geometries of ourselves and our fields, and that's part of that stabilization process of alignment, which then is part of the master builder and the builder code's alignment, because you're, with intention, mindfully aligning all of your geometries. So you're reconfiguring your geometries to align with your intention. And I love that you bring in the shapes, Julie, because for me, I'm, in my elemental frame of perception and integration. I see the elements of creation in the shapes too, right? Because they talk about that, like the cube is earth, like the pyramid or the triangle is fire. And I can't remember the other ones right now, because those are the ones I work with the most, I think. But all of those are in us too. So it's just so amazing to see this like whole fractalization of, the geometries and the elements, and we are them and how they present for us to play and reconfigure. And then that brings in the plasma, because all of it is malleable. The whole thing is clay. And that's that master builder component, is like, oh my gosh, I can build anything I want from this clay. So what do I need to do to get there, or allow or drop or be to get there? So thank you so much for bringing the geometry in, because I'm like, oh my God, yes.
um, I'll explain it in like so in the geometries of the energy body, or the human energy field, you can picture your column, your central column, and that we each, everyone I'm sure that's watching
I'm
this,
gonna do it with you. I'm gonna do the visual with you. Let's do it, everyone.
yeah, like the chakra system is often depicted as these lotus flowers,
Yes.
right? So that the earth chakra has 4 petals, the water chakra has 6, the fire chakra at the belly has 10, the heart center has 12, the throat, the vishuddha, the throat center has 16, the third eye has 2, right? So if you look at them, instead of like, if you took the lotus flower that is the petals, the edges, the vertices of the petals, and translate that into a geometric shape. So it's the 4 petals of the earth chakra draw a square, and the water is a hexagon.
There we go.
The belly, the fire center, is 2 interlaced pentagons to make the 10, the 5 points. The heart is the 6-pointed star, 2 6-pointed stars, because to make the 12. And then the throat is like an open, it's a dot in the center with the radiant points out that create the 16. But there's like, these geometries are like in your energy field. So like when you work with chakras, you're really, you are working with, and then you kept talking about the seeds. So that brought me back to this, one of the ancient Vedic practices that I like to do to tune my energy field is to work with the bija mantras, or the seed sounds in the Sanskrit language. So each of these petals on the chakra flowers have a coded Sanskrit character. So the Sanskrit alphabet is really all the vocal tones that the human palate, like the human mouth, can make, that range. And there's 5 different spots, like back of the throat, upper palate. We could get into the technical aspects of Sanskrit.
And
But we
affects your bioelectric
yeah,
circuitry.
completely. So then,
Yeah.
so when you so we have like the certain character of Sanskrit or one letter in the alphabet of Sanskrit, and when you add a you've seen them with the like little dot on top. When you add the ng sound, it makes them a bija mantra or a seed sound. So a lot of us are familiar with the central sounds, the bija mantras, like the lam, vam, ram, and those are the central ones. But the whole Sanskrit alphabet is like spread out on the tips of the flowers. So it's like when you chant, anytime you do any mantra work, it's like that is the building with the seed sounds. It's like you're creating sound codes, light codes, geometries, and it like creates, and it's how the prana distributes itself through the veins or through the nadis of your energy field.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a nice fun tangent of whatever, but
so good. I've been doing mantras now.
It's a super fun, potent, because a lot of people have trouble, but like the whole sitting down to meditate and having your mind be empty, that's kind of a fool's errand, right? Like it's not,
right.
It's like, how do you find techniques of meditation that help you tone and tune? And so for me, it's a lot of, the chanting helps a lot.
My favorite. I'm doing that. I'm doing right now I'm doing part 2 of the Holy Womb Chakra teaching. So I'm in the advanced seminar now for part 2 to be certified to teach it. And so each section of this practice, you are doing each mantra 101 times, 108 times for 101 days. And there's like 10 mantra. So it's really, it's rigorous. It's a lot. That's what this is for. The lotus seed. So you guys, if you want to get a lotus mala, they're like $13 on Amazon. Not that I love Amazon anymore, but until we adjust that, but doing your mantras, I highly recommend it because you become the instrument. But you start to feel you're the instrument.
Yeah, like it's cool. It's like such a rich topic. Even like for back when I was teaching yoga classes, like I would always teach with the Sanskrit too, because if you say like Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, it's you're pinging these different chakra petals through the field just by saying that. You don't even have to do the pose. You can just like hear the name of it, and it already changes your energy field. Or like when you're teaching, if you teach with the Sanskrit, it's like the student or the practitioner's energy field knows what to expect or how to recode itself when they get into that posture.
So incredible. So that's another tool. I couldn't recommend that enough is mantra, you guys, for tuning your fields and playing with your geometries that way as well. I got such a huge activation when you were sharing the geometries and the chakras. Like there's like a lot going on right here right now. So I'm excited to see what that is. Yeah. So anything else? Do you think, you think are we complete?
Well, yeah, I could talk to you all day, sweet sister.
I know.
Like a good, like we get some of the builder codes laid out.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how everyone plays with these, because please reach out to us. And if you want to share, it's so fun. This is the creation part, it's the fun part. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you, Julie, so much.
Thank you, Merissa. It's always such a pleasure. I'm glad to join you in your Endorian forest.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Endor. So here are the Ents, the redwood Ents, guys. So thanks so much for joining us. And please, any questions you have, drop them below, and we'll see you for the next. Bye.